Your personal interest?
Yeah, I also know, Leader, we've got a number of members of the Fire Authority, so they would have personal interests only respect of item 5, so we can note those for Councillor Austin, Councillor Carol and Sharon, yeah.
Okay, Councillor Paul?
I think my interest is prejudicial because I'm a director of the community interest company behind the pump track, so I'll leave the meeting at that point.
So it's agenda item 14, part 1. Yeah, okay, thanks for that, Paul. We got Councillor Allen online.
Yeah, thanks, Leader. I'm not sure if mine is prejudicial or it's the same thing, 14, the lease for the pump track. I can't vote on it, can't really comment on it, but the applicant's Councillor Andrew Wood is deemed to be a close personal associate, but I can't see why there'd be a problem for this particular item, but I'm happy to take advice on that.
Hey, Matt.
I think on my feet, Leader, my advice would be to just exercise caution. I think if there's any doubt there, it's probably better not to be part of that particular item, because if the councillor is a close personal associate and he's also a director on that board, there's the potential that might be prejudicial.
I don't think Andrew's a director on the board. He's here, he might be able to advise on that. He's just the original applicant. But I say I can't vote on this.
Yeah, the issue though,
it's just in my ward, that's all, so that's why I have an interest in it.
Sure, in the end, it's always a matter for members, but my advice is it's not about whether or not you can vote. If you do have a prejudicial interest, you shouldn't be in the meeting when the matter's actually debated either.
Okay, I'll leave for that one. Put one down as a prejudicial, and yeah, I'll come back for the one afterwards. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Andrew?
Yeah, I am a director of the board of CIC. I've been a pump track CIC. I'll leave the meeting, but I will be here if you've got any questions prior to any decisions being made. Okay.
I think, Andrew, the advice from the monitoring officer is that you shouldn't take part in the meeting at all.
Okay, if that's no problem, if you've got no questions or you have nothing to ask, that's fine. Yeah.
No,
I shall take. I'll take. I will. Yes.
It's obviously in my ward, and I'm well aware of the scheme and stuff, but I don't have an interest as I'm not closely linked with the board. So we've had 3 prejudicial. We'll ask those members to leave during that item, if that's okay with everybody. Okay, good stuff. So agenda item 3 is urgent matters. I'm not aware that we have any. Agenda item 4 is minutes of the cabinet. Approve and sign as a correct record the minutes of the previous meetings, which are on pages 4 to 6. Members, are there any issues with the minutes? If not, could I have a proposer? Councillor Chris, could I have a seconder? Gromway, can we show in favour of accepting the minutes? Okie dokie. Agenda item 5 is to receive feedback from members and outside bodies. It's the North Wales Fire and Rescue Authority. So very warm welcome, Chris Kinnis, to Cynharad Austin and Cynharad Sharon Dolman, who are going to give us an update on their work. I think, Sharon, are you going first? Yeah. So over to you, Sharon.
Thank you, Chair. My part of the report is on the work of the North Wales Fire and Rescue Service Equalities, Diversity and Inclusivity Committee. I represent the North Wales councillors on that committee. The committee is chaired by the Deputy Chief Fire Officer, Stuart.
Sharon, can you put your microphone a bit closer, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
The committee is chaired by the Deputy Chief Fire Officer, Stuart Forshaw, and is made up of representatives from different groups from within the service. North Wales Fire and Rescue has established 5 staff networks. They are Fire Pride, Women in the Fire Service, the Neurodiversity Network, Parents and Carers Network, and REACH, which is Religion, Ethnicity and Cultural Heritage. The chairpersons from each of these groups report to the committee each quarter. These staff network groups play a key role in promoting awareness and forming policy. In the late summer, North Wales Fire and Rescue commissioned a research company, Crest, to undertake a survey into the culture of the service. The results and the report will be available in January. The service will review the findings of the report and act accordingly on recommendations to enable the service to further improve. There have been many positive outcomes over the past 12 months. The percentage of women firefighters in North Wales is 6% higher than the UK national average. The Chief Fire Officer is also a woman. Black History Month in October was celebrated by featuring local stories on the Fire Service Hub. Increased engagement with ethnic minority groups by attending community events has ensured a rapport is being developed with those who often don't have a voice. A grant was procured by the EDI team, which enabled the service to hold a Windrush Day last summer. Presenters and speakers from all over the country told their stories and their families' stories about the difficulties they faced in the 1960s and the difficulties they continue to face. It was a powerful and enlightening experience to listen to those stories. Welsh language is embedded in everything the fire service deliver. New starters are offered Welsh language training, and existing employees have opportunities to enhance their language skills informally and formally. Fire Pride are active in the communities of North Wales, attending Pride events all over the region. They were recognised earlier this year with an award by Pride Cymru for their outstanding contribution by a public service. The service are committed to supporting employees who are neurodivergent or dyslexic through workplace assessments and implementing adjustments to ensure equal opportunity for all. Out in the community, the fire prevention team have engaged with a number of minority groups, including the Gypsy traveller community and other travellers who reside on canal boats in North Wales. An EDI conference is planned for February 2025 in Zip World Stadium, Colwyn Bay. I look forward to attending. Diolch.
Okay, diolch Sharon. Cynora Doston.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Arweinydd. Mi fydd yn adrodded i mewn 3 rhan. Mi fydd y rhan gyntaf yn Saesneg, mi fydd yr ail rhan yn Gymraeg, a fydd y rhan dwytha hefyd yn Saesneg. Mae'r rhan gyntaf yn gyflwyniad gan y cynghorydd Gareth Jones, sydd yn aelod o y pwyllgor Budget Scrutiny Working Group. The group has met a number of times over recent months, but the budget proposals have yet to be passed by the Audit Committee. And that will happen on the 16th of the 12th, 24, or by the Fire Authority, who meet on the 20th of the 1st, 25. I assume that there has been some contact between the finance departments of the council and the authority, and the provisional budget is due to be given to the council by the 31st of the 12th, 24. The service is facing similar cost pressures to the council: wages, energy and fuel, and ageing estate, and the need to improve the carbon efficiency of their fleet and buildings. They also face unavoidable industry-specific health and safety costs, and there is a court case involving the Airwave network, which is not North Wales specific, but covers all the UK emergency services. The court case is significant as it reduces the increased request of the councils by 1.1% if it goes in our favour. Significant reductions have been made to the original proposals, and I have stressed that the fire service cannot be insulated from the cost pressure being faced by councils at this time. In my view, the increase in the levy should not be out of line with the increased funding provided to the council by the Welsh Assembly, and certainly not pushing up towards the initial 10%. It remains to be seen if that is the case. It is assumed that the national insurance increases will be covered by the government via the council. Due to the number of part-time firefighters, this increase alone is expected to be in the region of 772,000. Indications are that Conwy will be asked for one of the lower levy % increases compared with the other authorities based on ONS population estimates. This sounds like good news, but on the negative side, it could give an indication that our settlement from the Welsh Assembly could well be lower increase compared with the neighbouring authorities. As the financial budget has not been beyond the working group yet, I do not think it's appropriate to specify what I think the net levy contribution request will be. Worth noting, in my opinion, is that the Fire Authority are looking to develop a new training centre in North Wales, and depending on grant funding, etc., there could well be significant capital expenditure on this project in future years, which will have to be funded in one way or another through the levy. That is the end of my first part. The second part is as follows. You'll have to bear with me while I get it up on my iPad. This is, mi fydd y darn yma yn Gymraeg. A be nes i oedd cysylltu efo cadeirydd yr awdurdod, cynghorydd Dylan Rees o Ynys Môn, a gofyn rhai cwestiynau iddo fo, a dyma sydd wedi dod allan hynny. Yno fo fydd o'n deud faint o weithiau mae'r cyfarfodydd llawn wedi cael ei gynnal. Reit, cyfarfod llawn a gynhalwyd ar y 15fed o Ebrill 2024. Trafodwyd adolygiad annibynnol o ddiwylliant. Angen efallai egluro bod y gweinidog wedi penderfynu bod angen i hyn ddigwydd yn wasanaeth tân ac achub Gogledd Cymru, a hefyd gwasanaeth tân ac achub canol a gorllewin Cymru, yn dilyn adroddiad beirniadol Fenella Morris KC a'r gwasanaeth tân ac achub De Cymru. Erbyn hyn, mae'r Trust Advisory Service wedi cychwyn ei adolygiad ac mi fydd canlyniad hynny yn dod i ben rhywle cychwyn dechrau'r flwyddyn nesaf. Diweddariad ar yr adolygiad o'r ddarpariaeth frys Emergency Cover. Mae'r gwaith gan y grŵp tasg a gorffan dal i fynd ymlaen, trio dod i fyny efo opsiynau i wella ein darpariaeth ar gyfwng yn ein hardaloedd gwledig, yn dilyn yr awdurdod pleidleisio gan fwyafrif o un i beidio derbyn ar gymhellion yr uwch swyddogion y llynedd. Strategaeth a cydraddoldeb, amrywiaeth a chynhwysiant 2024-2029. Yna, cyfarfod llawn a gynhalwyd ar y 15fed o'r 7fed 2024. Performance Monitoring Report, cwbl o bethau sydd efallai werth ei sôn, bod nifer o digwyddiadau tân mewn eiddo yn mynd i lawr dros y flynyddoedd dwytha, mae llawer mwy o alwadau i wneud efo llifogydd a thanau gwyllt. Diffodd tannau mewn ceir trydan hefyd yn broblem. Mae'r awdurdod bellach yn monitro absynoldeb salwch y staff fel mae'r awdurdodau lleol yn ei wneud. Doedd hyn ddim yn digwydd yn gynt. Cyfarfod llawn a gynhalwyd ar y 30 o Hydref 2024. Llywodraethiant awdurdodau tân ac achub gan Archwilio Cymru. Archwilio Cymru a hefyd cadeirydd Pwyllgor Cyfiawnder Cymdeithasol a Chydraddoldeb Llywodraeth Cymru yn galw am newidiadau megis llai o aelodau ac ystyried cyfethol cynrychiolwyr efo arbenigaeth. Mi roedd y cadeirydd mewn cyfarfod yn ddiweddar yma gyda ysgrifennydd Cabinet Jane Bryant, a mae hi'n debygol o sôn rwan am adolygiad dwy-wedd De Cymru sydd dal efo comisiynwyr efallai yn gyntaf ac wedyn y ddau wasanaeth arall. A dyna ni diwedd yr adroddiad gyn cadeirydd yr awdurdod. Ac yn ola. Right, this one is the third part and it's in English and it is a report on the financial aspects of the authority. The Budget Scrutiny Working Group has met on 5 occasions and worked through all areas of income and expenditure. The budget proposals are built on the Fire Authority decision in December 2023, no changes to the service delivery models. Like-for-like increase in the levy is 5%, but closer to 7% after the impact of the national insurance is included. Includes use of reserves, an increase of 1 million for retained staff, following a 50% increase on the retaining fee, agreed nationally and over which we have no control. Pay award for 25-26, 3%, which equates to 0.9 million. National insurance increase following the budget, 0.8 million. Increase of 1.3 million in capital financing. We have a lot of loans that reach maturity next year and we have to refinance them. This includes a capital plan of 6 million for 25-26, fire appliances, building works, ICT. Reduction of 6.5% in non-pay, mainly due to reduced gas and electricity costs, reductions in equipment budget and reduction in emergency service network costs anticipated. Internal scrutiny on existing budgets with business cases for new spend, over 10,000. We are hoping to meet with the directors of finances of all the local authorities in North Wales on the 13th of December. Pay awards, areas of risk, pay awards, 3% feels reasonable, but for every 1% there is a risk of 0.27 million. There is a legal challenge around the emergency service network costs, which puts a risk of circa 0.4 million. No knowledge about the level of funding for the national insurance. The emergency cover review work is ongoing, but will not deliver savings as options not approved by the Fire Authority. The new training centre, approved in principle, and expenditure will now take place on planning, ecology, newt mitigation and design. Final decision due around December 2026 on affordability and funding options. External cultural review, the field work is completed and we anticipate the report at the end of January. And that concludes my report.
Okay, so very much like to thank you both for those really detailed reports. Are there any questions from members? No? So again, really appreciate taking us through the financial situation and the work that's going with the firework and just the general work you do representing the council and that external body. So to you both. So yeah. We will then move on to agenda item 6, which is announcements by the leader. You'll all be very aware that the county, indeed the region, took a real battering this weekend with Storm Dara. It's the second named storm in as many weeks. I'd just like to pay my thanks to all our staff from Barnes Road facilities who worked tirelessly to try and alleviate the worst effects of it. It's also right to recognise the incredible work our farmers do in our rural communities and helping out, and indeed in our communities across where people have sort of looked after their neighbours and assisted people as best they can. It was a really significant event, and like many people, we were without power for a couple of days. It's quite difficult. to manage. I'm also really pleased to announce that our fostering services, which sits within our children's services, recently had a full inspection by Care Inspectorate Wales. So I want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all the staff and our foster carers who contributed to that inspection, and a special thanks to Ellen, the section manager, and Kathy, the service manager, for their leadership. The verbal feedback from the inspection has been incredibly positive, and we look forward to seeing the written report in January. We all know fostering has a really transformative impact on children's lives, and we want to express our deepest appreciation to our wonderful foster carers for their unwavering dedication and the remarkable difference that they make every day to some of our most vulnerable young people. So that's all from me. Agenda item 7 is announcements by the Chief Executive.
Dim ond i ategu mewn gwirionedd y geiriau caredig gan yr arweinydd oedd hi'n benwythnos heriol iawn i staff allan ym mhob tywydd, ac nid jyst y staff rhynglaen, ond na nifer o staff yn cymryd galwadau, yn cyfathrebu. O'n i'n teimlo bod y cyfathrebu dros y penwythnos yn wych, gadael bobl wybod mewn da amser, o'na benderfyniadau anodd i cael ei wneud, enwedig o gwmpas y theatr, lle'r bobl yn edrych ymlaen yn arw i fynd i weld y sioeau yn y theatr. Ond dwi'n gobeithio bod bobl yn gwerthfawrogi y rhesymeg dros beidio bwrw ymlaen. Felly jyst diolch i'r holl staff roedd i amser a'i ymroddiad dros y penwythnos. Mae'n dangos pan mae yna dîm ar draws gwasanaethau yn dod at ei gilydd i drio helpu mewn argyfwng, da ni dda iawn am wneud hynny. Felly jyst yn diolchgar iawn i'r holl aelodau o staff roedd i amser prin dros y penwythnos i helpu'n cymdogion. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Okay, diolch Rhyn. So agenda item 8 is to review the Cabinet Forward Work Programme. Members, that's on pages 7 to 33. Any questions or observations about the Forward Work Programme? If not, can you just indicate you're in favour of accepting it? Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the first substantive item, which is agenda item 9. It sits in my own portfolio. You'll find that report on pages 34, 44. Essentially what we have is an update on the local government budget 25-26 and our financial outlook. This was presented to scrutiny 8 days ago. It was quite a long meeting and a really thorough examination of the issues that we face. If we go to headline 1.3, or point 1.3, the headline figure is that our funding shortfall for 25-26 is 31.2 million. Again, as I've said several times, our job in setting a balanced budget is to predict the level of funding we will need to carry out our services in the following financial year, and that can be quite a challenging thing to do given the amount of uncertainty there is around many items. But if we go to page 40, that will kind of highlight some of the areas where we're experiencing pressures. So table 1. The first one there is one-off business cases of 1.4 million. That's essentially where an in-year saving had been made in the budget last year, but it's a one-off saving, so therefore that pressure is back on in the following year. Pay for teachers in our schools, that sits at just under 2.9 million, based on the assumptions that are there in the comments box. Again, teachers' pensions, a further 2 million. Our own pay and pressures, 5.732 million. National insurance, following the budgetary announcements, as Councillor Austin said, with the fire service, that has been a really major change, especially the impact around part-time workers, as he also referenced. So we know there's been a 1.2% increase in the rate, but also the threshold that you start paying it has dropped from 9,100 to £5,000. We have been reassured that that money for those employed in public service will come back, but as yet there's no detail from UK government about the actual mechanism and the amount. There is a serious concern, obviously, that a lot of our work that we do, certainly things like our domiciliary services, external agencies, a lot of that staff would be part-time, so that's a really difficult figure to actually estimate properly. Capital financing and interest rates mean stubbornly high. Again, we have to kind of guess where we think interest will be in a year or two's time, and that is incredibly difficult, as you will all know, because there's lots of external factors that would impact in there. Levies are there, as Austin had said. The budget that the North Wales Fire and Rescue Authority sets is contained within our council tax, so obviously there's a lot of work going on there, but ultimately that's a pressure we're estimating around £1 million. There's a few other issues there around our PFI unit charge of schools, council tax collection. There's a few variables that you'll notice in the bottom, business cases of 14 million. The business cases are brought forward where there are service pressures, demands, and an estimate that will require extra money to meet those demands. We will be going through those business cases, and that will come through the democratic process at a later date, so members can understand those. So this is our position where we think we are. Be useful to move to page 43, where there's some risks to the assumption that we make. Pay awards is the first one that's deemed as a moderate risk. Again, we don't set pay for our staff, whether it's teaching staff or our own council staff, but we have to make an estimate. If it's higher, there's a risk that's going to cost us more. If it's lower, obviously that's the converse of that. Interest rates, as we said, are variable. Again, that is an estimate. Council tax collection rates, if we don't collect all the council tax we thought we would, that's going to reduce our budget. We have a council tax reduction scheme. I think it's 20,000 of our households benefit from that to various degrees, but that is also an estimate of the amount of demand. Budget reductions may not be delivered by services. After 14, 15 years of austerity, it gets increasingly difficult to find those budget savings, and they're often driven by factors outside our control. We've also gotten there increased pressure with homelessness. Again, that is demand led. If we have more people become homeless, then we have to provide that service for them. That's affected by lots of things, mostly around the cost of living crisis and lack of sort of suitable housing in the private sector, etc., etc. Very apt there is severe weather-related damage and storm damage. We've seen this weekend how quickly that can develop a huge cost just and a huge expense, both in repairing the damage and actually the officer time in assisting our residents. So this was brought through scrutiny. We know that over 70% of our funding comes from a central grant from Welsh Government. There will be an announcement later on today as to the basic outline of the Welsh Government budget, but we won't know until tomorrow actually what our provisional settlement will be. The provisional settlement most years, the final settlement is announced in February next year, but they tend to be very similar. So timing of this in some respects isn't great in that tomorrow we'll have a far better idea of the size of this challenge and what we need to do to meet it. But the recommendations for this report was that the outline budget provision for 2025 ahead of the draft local government settlement be noted, and that the risks identified in section 7 of the appendix 1 of the report be noted and accepted. So that's the two tables I've taken you through. There's also been an additional recommendation from scrutiny that a meaningful contingency fund be built into the budget for 25-26. Members will again be aware that we hold relatively low reserves, and clearly reserves can only be used once. I would like to point out that last year of the 22 local authorities, there are only 2 that didn't use their reserves, and we were one of those 2. It was a modest increase of 1 or 2%, but I think that does show that we recognise that use of reserves is not appropriate given the levels that we've got. So the ask is to have a minimum contingency fund. It's very difficult to put a figure on that with the amount of unknowns that we have at the moment, but I'm happy to accept that recommendation based on the fact that that's something that we've tried desperately hard for the last few years to recognise that position and maintain those budgetary reserves. So I'm happy to move those recommendations, members, and I'll open it up for any questions or observations. Emily.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Thanks for going through that in such great detail. I think it just highlights the importance of what we're trying to do here and how tricky this situation is, given this isn't the first time it's come. This is on the back of many years of cuts. So just thanks to the staff that have helped us with kind of pulling this together and constantly reviewing what we can do and how we can be more efficient whilst delivering high standards of services to our residents. So I'm happy to, if you've moved the recommendation, I'm happy to second.
Right, Joe, Emily. Members, again, we've had a Councillor Paul.
Just to provide an update, I've just seen on the media that Mark Drakeford, Finance Minister, announced this afternoon that the local government uplift will be 4.3%. Obviously, that doesn't mean we'll get 4.3%, but the uplift was 4.3%. That's what Ian has this afternoon.
Yeah, well, thanks very much, Paul. The devil is in the detail, as you know, in terms of where we end up. Last year we were joint bottom with Gwynedd, so we will await with bated breath, I guess. But again, this is really well discussed by members at the scrutiny committee. We all know this report really well and inside out. So if there's no questions or any more observations, we've had a proposer and a seconder. Can we show we're in favour of accepting the recommendations, members? Okay. Thank you very much. So agenda item 11 sits in the education portfolio. Unfortunately, Councillor Julie couldn't be here today due to some unforeseen circumstances. So I shall be taking this report, and we've got officers here for any gaps in my knowledge that you can obviously address their questions to them. So the report is in pages 45 to 82. As noted in 1.1, in January earlier this year, we approved a proposal to amalgamate a school upon Mocktra and Yscol Custennin. So that means that the two schools would close and a new school for Mocktra would open. That new school will be called Yscol Mynafon, and it will be under the leadership of the head teacher, Ashley Bennett. So basically what we're looking at here, which was proposed by the new governors, is to amalgamate both schools on one site. I was fortunate, along with Julia's portfolio, to actually visit the sites and show around the head teacher as to what the proposals are. It's a very detailed report. You'll see there's been good stakeholder engagement as detailed in 3.4. Having seen the site and seeing what's been proposed, I think it's really exciting for those young people. I think it'll be a really positive development. It'll make the school more sustainable, but I think more importantly for me, it'll provide a better educational facility and opportunity for those young people. So if members have any questions about the detail of the report, then I'm happy to take them, or more likely direct them over to one of the officers, if that's okay. So I'll open it up for any questions, members. Emily?
I think the report kind of speaks for itself. I'd just like to put on record my thanks to Councillor Stephen, who's been very involved in this from day one as a local member, and has been instrumental in helping ensure that this goes through smoothly. So yeah, I just want to say thank you, Stephen, for everything that you've done with this, and I'm happy to second if anyone.
Sorry, it was remiss of me. I will move recommendation 2.1. The cabinet approved the temporary governing body's proposal of a single site solution for Yscol Mynafon, which would see all pupils taught on the current Yscol Custennin site as soon as practically possible. So you're okay to second that, Emily? I'll bring Councillor Paul in.
Yes, Chairman, I welcome this proposal and the serious and responsible way we've gone through this. For me, a key issue is because, as you know yourself, Charlie and Julie, often give me pushback on this issue of small schools, amalgamations, unfilled school places, and this is one going through the system now. So what I'd like to ask, just to understand going forward, because you usually push back on the matter that it's very difficult to do these things because of the costs involved, to just fully understand the monies that we have applied to come to this resolution. I am aware that the transition funding for this project was extended, I think, from 3 to 5 years, if I understood it correctly. And I understand that some government grants have been applied to get us to this point, but I'd be quite grateful to hear and understand some of that detail, if that's possible.
Okay, who'd like to pick up? Joe?
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Paul. Yeah, as you rightly say, the transitional funding is over 5 years. We're not able to give you detailed confirmation of the two budgets coming together as one. However, we anticipate that consolidating the two sites onto one will result in significant savings of around £28,000 to £50,000 for the school budget. And that's about as detailed as we can give you at the moment without actually having the allocation through for next year's budget.
I'll just come back on that. But aren't we applying some government grants to this project to do with preschool provision or building works or other matters?
Yeah, we've got an allocation of £42,000 from the Welsh Government to carry out a play group in the Mochtra area. That 42,000 allows us to do preliminary investigation works, surveys and design works. And this report will start that process, because now, hopefully, if Cabinet approval of the Castennin site, then we're able to start the design and prelim works on the Castennin site and not having to do it twice because we were not sure what site it's on. So that starts the project, if you like, on the prelim side of things, and then we will have further application for the actual work to Welsh Government as all our playgroup and Cilchmeithrin projects at Conwy. That's how we all go about it.
Can I just ask, so what monies are we using over and above the transition monies to actually, if you like, the physicality of moving to the new site, because that's going to be quite costly, dealing with the outstanding staff issues, and then obviously the costs involved with maintaining the old site?
The actual cost of moving is quite little. We've also got in-house staff that we can use to carry out and help with the moves. The building Ysgol Castennin, the way it is, the classrooms are already set up. We'll be using some grant funding to adapt classrooms with regards to the Cilchmeithrin. That's a proposal that we're looking to reshape the Castennin landscape to make sure that it works, as well as kind of increasing, hopefully, the car parking space there as part of the project. Other than that, it's very, very little costs to us for developing the Castennin site.
Okay,
And
Paul,
there are,
Paul, sorry, that's 4 times you've come back in here, to be fair. I have let it go, and you should really be dressing through the chair. I'll bring Laurie in.
Yeah,
please.
yeah, just on a final point. In terms of any staffing costs, they would be treated as we would with any redundancy costs across any schools within the local authority. You'll know that that fund isn't delegated to schools. That's a central fund. And as we did last year, we will be picking that up as a local authority. So, you know, any process around that would fall in line with our financial regulations.
Okay, Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Emily for her kind words. And I'd also like to thank the TGB and the FGB. This has been a very, very challenging time for all members of staff and for the members of the governing bodies as well. I'd also like to thank Dr. Lowry for her support, and in particular Gareth Robertson and John Paul Jones. They've been absolutely fantastic in developing this project, and we've worked well alongside with them with the TGB. I think if I reflect back to this strategy for modernisation for Conwy Primary Schools in 2010, Mochtra indicated then that they wanted a one-site solution, and that remains today the preferred option as well. So I fully support the one-site option, and the community itself also supports that transition as well. Thank you.
Okay, again, let me add my thanks, Stephen. It's been a huge amount of work to bring this transformation, and it's so important to bring the pupils, the teachers, and the community with you, and you make a change like this. Cromwell, did you want to?
Yeah, just a brief question on once the school is built, what will become of the site that we're vacating? Is that going on the open market, or what is there any plans for that?
Lowry.
Yeah, so the remaining site will be Mochtra Infants, and of course that will be within our education portfolio of estates. So we'll be bringing proposals through Democracy, Councillor Gronwy, and you know, to get your views on some of the options that we'd want to put forward for that setting.
Okay, so that'll be the next stage of the process, probably, once this has been approved. I say I really valued the site visit. I think it was really clear that this is the right thing to do. there's close proximity to each other, and the fact that there's natural transition from children to one to the other, makes things a lot easier. But there were lots of issues with one of the sites that will be, really improved with this proposed move. So yeah, I thought it was really positive, and thanks to the head teachers team for meeting us there and showing us what the proposals are. Okay, members, if there's no other comments or observations, we've got a proposer and a seconder. Can we see that vote in favour? Okay, that's it, everybody. Thank you. So agenda item 12, exempt items, Local Government Act 1972, Section 100A and Schedule 12A, access to information. To consider passing a resolution under the provisions of Section 100A (4) of the above Act to exclude the public and press from the meeting during consideration of the following items, as it is likely that, if present, there would be disclosure of them of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 12, 13, 14 and 15 of Part 4 of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972. If we're happy, can somebody propose we move into private session? Emily, second, Councillor Paul, just show in favour, members. Okay, wonderful. We'll just wait a minute or two until we're all clear. Education Improvement Service Model.